It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
This is Austin Dillon, driver number 3, Dow Chevrolet, and you're listening to The Front Stretch.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. You want to find out what these guys are going to be going through today, minus the pit crews, because you don't have to have a pit crew when you go over to Joe's Karting. You can go figure out what this racing thing's all about, and I don't care what anybody says. Joe's Karting is as close as I'll ever get to what NASCAR is like, even if I get an iRacing rig or buy NASCAR Heat 15, what is it, the one they're in now? But get over to Joe's Karting today. Do yourself right with a little indoor kart racing.
Well, if that's what you really want is to simulate that, I can start spotting from the passenger seat when we take a trip.
I thought you were. I think that's our problem is I thought you were my spotter.
Yeah, but I'm over there being quiet, so I don't know who you're listening to.
The voice is in my head. Clear low. No, there's a car! All right, so a lot of show to cover today. We'll recap the race at Phoenix. We'll sit down and talk with Ben Shelton from MSR Mafia. He's going to have the call at the Gateway Dirt Nationals. We'll talk to him in turn number 2. Anthony Roth, driver of the 64th Modified and Sport Modified out of I-80 Speedway, will join us to talk about his 2-track championships at I-80 Speedway. And then in turn number 4, we're going to preview today's race at Homestead, talk about our championship 4, talk about the Homestead party, and of course, joining us on the show now, the webmaster for fantasyracingtips.com. That's Chad Robb. Good to have you back on the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We're going to talk a lot about what happened, a little bit about what happened at Phoenix. I want to save quite a bit of the show for Anthony and Ben, and then also I want to save quite a bit of the show for Turn 4, because I think that's the most important thing, is previewing what's going on today at Phoenix, or excuse me, at Homestead.
I think, first of all, we need to send out some condolences. Had a local racer, race car owner, crewman, a guy that was involved with the sport for a long time. John Kenny Sr. passed away recently. Was a figure at Sunset Speedway, and his son won a bunch of track championships in the area with his help. And he also did some driving, and I remember a few years on the roof of his car where your name would be, it said Stuntman.
And I think we had John Kenny Jr. on the show a few years back as a part of the, I believe it was the Sunset Speedway reunion show.
Probably did. He
Okay.
won a lot of track championships at Sunset in the Pro-Am division and raced a few cars for some people. But, yeah, his father will be missed in the area. And on a national level, David Pearson passed away, the Silver Fox, Hall of Famer. I had the pleasure. I met the man one time. Definitely was not on a first-name basis with him, but true gentleman in the sport. Richard Petty's biggest rival, probably the biggest rival ever in the sport between Pearson and Petty. So, but yeah, he passed away after a long illness. Was 83 years old, I think, 86, something like that.
I was thinking 87, but I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been around a long time, hadn't raced in a while, but he put the Wood brothers on the map.
Also want to send out condolences to the Hart family. John Hart passed away at 63 after an illness. John was a staple out of Eagle Raceway. I've only been out there for the last couple of years. I only got to meet him a couple of times and talk with him, but funny enough, every time I sat down and had a conversation with him, it was usually over a beer after the races, and he was a really nice guy. So I know he's going to be greatly missed out of Eagle Raceway. Apologize we didn't get that out during last Sunday's show. Unfortunately, he passed away after we'd already recorded the show, so we didn't have an opportunity. So we got to kick off the show on a sad note with quite a few passings as of recently. So send out condolences to all those fans, friends, and family of the drivers and the crew members that have passed away in the last, 16 days or so. All right, let's talk about what happened over at Phoenix Raceway. When that green flag dropped, it looked right off the bat like Harvick wasn't going to miss a beat, and he was going to sweep the weekend. He was going to haul away with the mail and just take everybody to the woodshed. Unfortunately, it was a right front tire that interfered with that.
When you keep cutting that dog leg over there, it just wears out that front tire, it seemed like. At least that's what a lot of the drivers were saying.
Yeah.
And, it bit a couple of them and took out a couple of our championship drivers.
Well, and it's hard on the right front, not only cutting that dog leg, but to run that super low line in turn 4. I mean, the track is so flat, and I mean, they're basically running the apron down there.
Yeah.
It's just a tough track on that right front.
Going into that race, like I said, 2 laps before the end of stage 1, looked like Harvick was going to pick up the 10 bonus points. secure his position into or make his movement into Homestead in the championship 4 a little more solidified. Blew a right front, was able to keep it off the wall, but he went a lap down. And he spent most of the day juggling around in the back of the field. And once he got back there, I was really surprised at his inability to move back up through the field.
It was just tough to pass over there, you know. It just seemed like everybody wanted to run the same groove. And there was a lot of cars. It seemed like you could run up to about the top 12. Mm-hmm. And then those top 12 cars were all pretty fast. And it was just hard to make any hay once you got up to the top 10.
Well, he got back into the top 10 and was right up. I think he was on a third place on the restart after Boyer had his problem and backed her into the wall up there. Well, now they've got the track turned around, so now it's turn 1.
Oh yeah,
it used to be 3 and 4, and that's what I was saying earlier when I was mentioning that, because I forgot until we got to talking about them moving the front straightaway to the dogleg and vice versa. So it was turn 1 and 2 where it's real hard on the tire going down through there, because the back leg's now the dog leg's now the back straightaway. But a bunch of cars stayed out at that point. I remember Jimmy Johnson stayed out, Harvick stayed out, Austin Dillon had stayed out. I was listening on the radio while I was driving back, but I was listening during that part of the race. Mm-hmm. So that's where he got his lead back and got back up to the front. But then there was another caution before the segment ended. Mm-hmm. Before that second segment ended, and a bunch of guys had taken tires, then they stayed out, and Harvick and all those people came in and took tires.
Yeah.
But he was back on the lead lap when the second segment. As a matter of fact, I think he finished 10th in the second segment, 9th or 10th.
Did not finish in the top 10 either segment. No, I'm sorry. He finished in the second segment. He finished
6th.
Yeah.
Oh, he was up to 6th. Okay, I knew he had got in the top 10 on that second segment.
Now the driver that had the best car, I think, was Kurt Busch, because he got penalized for passing the pace car.
Yeah.
I think it was on the coming in for the end that second segment, or
it was the pit stop on Boyer's.
It was under caution.
It was Boyer's pit stop. It was when they went pit stop for Boyer's caution.
Again, it's another one of those funny situations where when they bring it up in the drivers' meeting, it happens on the track. And NBC did a great job of saying they talked about it in the pre-race.
They talk about it every pre-race.
Do not pass the pace car, because they've had issues with it at other tracks, so they brought it up again.
Well, the reason they were very specific about it was because this track, the layout changed.
Yeah.
And everything was going to be so much different. Now, I mean, let's face it, there's not another track outside of Bristol where they pit on both straightaways where you pit on the back straightaway.
Yeah. And I want to bring up to your point where you said drivers getting up into that top 12 and then having a tough time. There was 6 drivers I counted that day that I felt like could have won that race. Chase Elliott being one of them, Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick. I thought Eric Almirola had a really good car. Brett Keselowski and Kyle Busch. Obviously, Kyle Busch gets the win, but I felt like the race at Phoenix, there were more drivers than I felt like in the past for a lot of the races that had a shot at winning this race. And not like a off chance because of strategy. Like, they had really strong cars.
Yeah, it really came down to momentum. You know, the guys just had to get a run on the other cards, and it seemed like once you got track position, you were good.
Yeah.
But it was getting that track position that was so tough.
Kurt Busch ends up finishing the day 32nd. He is eliminated from the playoffs. Real quick, guys, if you all saw the picture of Kurt sitting on the pit wall and Tony kind of confining at him, that spoke volumes to me. You know, a lot of times I've taken from social media today that a picture's worth 1,000 lies. I don't think you could find a lie in that picture. He was wearing his heart on that sleeve right there.
How far has Kurt Busch come in the last 10 years?
Amen. We're getting a little bit short on time here, and we do need to talk about it a little bit, but the fact that he was involved in an accident and eliminated from a race, he would have lost his everything that day. Probably fighting with Denny Hamlin, probably destroying cars, probably causing all this issues. Instead, you hear stories that he owned up to the mistake on pit road. Whether he disagreed with it or not, he owned up to it. Him and Denny Hamlin had a beer after the races at the airport waiting for the plane and hashed it all out. And he just seems like a completely different guy.
And I think a lot of that has to do with Tony Stewart. And I think he really needs to try to stay in that number 41 car.
Yeah.
I know he hasn't signed a contract with anybody yet, but I think he'd be a different driver if he went to a different team.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, the news that came out this week with Monster going to Chip Ganassi Racing kind of says that there's some guy with a KB initials that's going to be over in one of those cars over there.
So Kurt ends up finishing 32nd. Worst of the playoff drivers was Joey Logano. Didn't matter. He was already locked into the championship 4. Clint Boyer, we talked about his accident, finished 35th. He was eliminated. Chase Elliott finished 23rd after having a very, very strong car, getting caught up in one of those accidents. He was eliminated from the playoffs. Kevin Harvick, your other playoff contender, finished 5th. Eric Almirola finished 4th. He was eliminated because he was so far back, he had to win in order to get in. And then your final playoff driver, Kyle Busch, ends up winning the race. I missed Martin Truex Jr., who finished 14th. Didn't need to have a strong day, just didn't need to have a bad day. And he had exactly what he needed. So Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., and Joey Logano are all going to contend today for your championship 4 at Homestead Miami Speedway. We're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2. We're going to sit down with Ben Shelton to preview the Gateway Dirt Nationals. Then in turn number 3, we're going to sit down with Anthony Roth and talk about his year at I-80 Speedway. And then we're going to come back and get you set for today's race at Homestead. We'll be back on the front stretch.
Finding a home can be the most important decision in your life. It's the simple factors of neighborhood, garage size, the school district, and commute that get overlooked by most realtors. Those are the aspects that Jim Blazina has been focusing on since 1988. From rental properties to your forever home, the Racing Realtor will work hard to get you exactly what you're looking for, and he can help list your home for a speedy sale. Contact Jim Blazina today, 402-980-8400, or jblazina@npdodge.com.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Hey, this is Jack Dover, driver of the number 53, Liquid Trucking, Carpet Land, Backlund Plumbing, Certified Transmission, Triple S Motorsports, Sprint Car, and you're listening to the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Rolling into turn number 2, and it's time to talk about a race that has been moved up just 2 weeks to get you set. And we're talking with Ben Shelton, owner of MSR Mafia, about the VP Racing Fuels Gateway Dirt Nationals at the Dirt at America Center in St. Louis, coming up November 29th, 30th. And December 1st, just 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks away. Ben, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Ben, talk to me a little bit about the 2017 race. There was a lot of things that happened, a lot of really good things that happened, a lot of positivity that came out of that race from the guy who called the lap-by-lap action. Can you kind of recap some of the weekend from last year?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic weekend. We were all extremely nervous because, the first year people had minimal expectations for us, and the weekend started slow the first year on Thursday, and then Friday we hit the stride with that great battle between Shannon Babb and Bloomquist and Lanigan and Fager and those guys. And, the Modifieds had put on a fantastic show, and we backed it up on Saturday night. So coming into last year, we were probably more nervous last year than we were the year before because we had big shoes to fill. And again, Thursday night started maybe a little slower than we would have liked, but Friday and Saturday ramped up. We had fantastic racing. We had a thriller on Saturday night, especially in the late models. You had Tyler Carpenter and Tanner English and Bobby Pierce going at it. And of course, Pierce gets the win, which was really popular in that area. But just a fantastic event last year. And then, it gave us more confidence for this year. And that's why we've seen some changes and an even bigger show on tap.
Well, the Friday night, you had the two young guns with Hudson O'Neill and Gordy Gundaker taking home the two features on Friday, which kind of shows kind of where this sport's headed.
Yeah, it does. And, those two guys, that was huge. I mean, Gordy always enjoys victory lane, and Hudson told me that was just surreal to him. And it did. We got a taste of the future there on Friday night, and Saturday night, Bobby Pierce backed it up. And, a lot of people think he's a lot older than he is, but Bobby's, 22 years old now. He feels like he's 42 because he's been racing forever. But the young guns definitely showed the way last year, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can back it up this year.
Well, and Bobby drives with a lot of experience. It seems like a little experience over his age.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you think he got in a crate late model at 10 or 11 years old, So, and he was running I think he was running kids mods at 9 years old. So, he's got a lot of experience, and he definitely is more mature beyond his years behind the wheel. And that's his kind of place. I mean, he cut his teeth at bull rings like Belle Claire and, Macon Speedway, and even the little bit bigger bull rings in Illinois are smaller than what most people are used to. So he really shined, and, he's this year, unless something changes, he's going to try to take a shot at all three divisions. He's got a midget ride, a modified ride, and a late model ride. So that place, they're going to lift the roof off of it if he pulls the Triple Crown on Saturday.
Yeah. And with all the racing he's doing, I mean, he's one of the few guys that goes out and he makes it a point to try and run that whole Hell Tour in the summer. And what is that, 28 races in 30 days or something crazy like that?
Yeah, he didn't get to do it this year. He ran a few of the races, but because he was running the full Lucas Oil slate, he didn't get to. But next year, I think, he's going to pick and hit a national shot. So he's going to be back in the family-owned team as it stands now. So I think you'll see him running more of that. But, yeah, he's a guy that, he and his family, they like to go run 80 or 90 times a year if they have the opportunity. And they love the bull rings, and that's why you see guys like him and Brandon Shepard. And even last year, Tyler Carpenter, coming down from West Virginia, he was, I say a kid, there again, Tyler's in his 20s. He's somebody that from this area, in the St. Louis area, and definitely over in y'all's area, people don't know much about him unless you're a diehard guy, but he's a guy that goes out and wins 20, 30, a couple of years ago, he won 40 races in a year. Wow. So, for him to come in last year, he cut his teeth on those West Virginia and Ohio Valley bull rings, and he almost won the race. And I mean, I really think last year he told me, he goes, "Man, you guys made me sound a lot bigger than I was." And I said, "No, you pretty much did it all yourself. Nobody knew who you were, and you sort of noticed. You better pay attention to me." And so that's what's cool about this event is somebody can come in under the radar and possibly come in and get just a huge win.
Well, and the timing of it allows for some pretty big guys to come in and compete for this because they're not stuck to a series or stuck to a local track. They're pretty much packed up for the year, minus coming to this race.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these touring guys that are coming in, and that's exactly how it is. I mean, you've got Jonathan Davenport, now a two-time Lucas Oil champion. He comes in just to have some fun, and you get guys like Don O'Neill and then, Billy Moyer Jr., and then you throw it in with some local guys that run around the St. Louis area, and then you throw in some regional guys. We've got cars coming from Ontario this year. I mean, it's really become it's a happening that just happens to have a race at it.
That's exactly right. Well, as is the case usually when a race wraps up, you guys go hard to work and start talking over ways that you can improve it. And it's a fine line you got to toe between adding some fun new events that fans will really get into and not messing up what you guys have. So what are some of the things you guys are going to be doing just a little bit different for this year's VP Racing Fuels Gateway Dirt Nationals?
Well, most notable is, we're going to throw in the midgets. So we've got a third division coming in this year. So we're back in the lab doing our homework, preparing harder than ever because we've got a whole other division we're going to run. And then, the midgets will only practice on Thursday night, but, we'll have a race of champions we did last year for the late models. But then on Friday night, you're going to have twin features for the late models, the mods, and the midgets. So you're going to see 6 features on Friday night, whereas last year you saw 2 late model and I believe 1 modified. This year, you're going to have 2 for each of them.
Wow.
And then on Saturday night, now we've got 3 big finales. And I think it can't be understated. That midget finale on Friday night, the midgets are going for a pair of 3,000 win features. And on Saturday night, they're going for 10,000. So we're talking about the same payout pretty much as the Chili Bowl. And it was an invitational only. And this midget field is just a who's who. It's the Christopher Bells, the Kyle Larsons, the Ricky Stenhouse Juniors. I mean, we limited it to 59 entries, and you'd be hard pressed to put another 59 in there any better. You throw in Brady Bacon and Tyler Courtney, and I mean, it's something to really get excited about. So right now our focus is we want to run an efficient show, even though we're throwing in a whole other division.
Now with this, with the 59 midgets that they're allotting in, are they cutting down the modified and late model fields a little bit just because of the room?
The modified field went invitational only this year, so okay. We've got I believe 56 mods invited, and again, it's a who's who of modified racing. We got guys there's going to be guys running together this weekend in every division that don't race together the rest of the year, especially in the mods and the late models. So yeah, we cut that down because we had 109 modifieds last year. The late models remained open entry. We've got 110 entered. Realistically, we had about 110 entered last year, and I think we had 92 show up. So you can expect that there's going to be a few scratches, things like that. But I think we'll be right around 100 late models. And then as far as I know right now, all of the midgets and the mods that are entered are going to be there. So we're going to have probably right at 200 cars on the premises, which is we had 200 on the nose last year between the late models and the mods.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know when I went last year and went down and walked through the pits, and I mean, I went from one end to the other, and there wasn't a whole lot of empty space anywhere. So
no, they utilize the space, and the whole event is just about being efficient. So that's, you asked the question, what changes for this year? Just trying to increase that efficiency and give the fans and the racers the best possible experience. That's where we're at right now.
Any layout changes to the track itself or to the access to the track or anything like that?
I haven't talked to Cody specifically about this. Anything that we have would be minute like last year. And, the biggest thing we get, and I had kind of a social media tangent this past week, somebody made a post and they said, great race last year. Track needs to be bigger. And I said, there's in a nutshell of the problem in our sport.
Yeah.
I enjoyed everything you did last year. Let's change it. And then, you change it and you risk ruining it. And it's a very fine line. We've talked about that. People go, well, there's more room. The turns could be more sweeping there and you can move the walls out. But, we've got Kevin Gundaker and some of the best track prep people in the world. And their concern since day one is if we make the turns wider, it's going to promote guys making one big circle. Well, if you're making one, because the straightaways are so short, well, if you're making one big circle, you're not passing anybody.
Yeah.
So right now it's paperclip for those guys on the bottom have to crawl and those guys on the top can go up there. And especially as the night goes on, the wall starts to disappear in the corners, as you guys saw last year. And that's when that cushion builds up on it. Guys can go up there. So any changes will be minute, but right now we're just kind of in the mindset of why take a wide swipe at changing something that could ruin the quality of the show.
Well, the track, I mean, after being there last year, I didn't go the first year, but after being there last year, I think the track's about as big as it can be. You guys need the room to move the equipment around, the track prep equipment and stuff like that through the ends of the track that people don't think about. So
well, it is, and there's safety requirements. You got to have so much clearance on each end of the racetrack. There's just a lot of things, and look, I'm a guy always looking to make things better, but this is kind of a unique thing, and you really have to be careful how much you start changing, especially this year. With bringing the midgets in, you hate to bring the midgets in and change the track because if you have an issue, with track conditions this year, you don't know was it the addition of the midgets or was it the way we changed the track. So we've got to go step by step, and that's paramount. At the end of the day, we want to have a great show. We're 2 for 2 so far. Knock on wood, and good Lord willing, we're going to be 3 for 3 here in about 3.5 weeks.
And moving it up a couple weeks, that coincides, especially for the midgets. Don't they run like the week after that? They run a big show at DeQuoin or somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, they get DeQuoin coming up. It'll actually be 2 weeks after that because the week after is PRI, the PRI trade show there in Indy. But we had to move it this year. There was a little bit of upset on that. People liked it a little bit closer to Christmas. They thought it was added more element, but there was a pre-existing event. Believe it or not, I think it's like maybe a Beyonce concert of all things that was booked out 2 years at the Dome. So that shows you how far those major events are booked, and we had to work around it. So that's why the date changed. Some people like it, some don't, but it was one of those situations where this is our option. This is what we've got to do, so let's make the most of it.
Yeah, I think dirt track fans might be a little bit upset if they got kicked to the curb for a hip-hop concert.
They did. The thing is we'll go in there next, on that event, hopefully put 20, 25,000 people in there, maybe a little bit more this year because a lot of new people coming because of the midgets. Beyonce may go in there and put 50,000 in there. So I definitely understand us having to play second fiddle to that Dome. But no, it's going to be great. It's going to work out. And honestly, for somebody like me and some of the racers, we're happy that we can go and run this event, then go to PRI the next week, and then be off 3.5 weeks before we head to Arizona to start the new season. Where in years past, we get done at the Dome and we're home for 18 days, and then we literally start the season again. So this actually almost doubles the length of the off season, which is depressing when you think about doubling it as a difference in 2 weeks and 4 weeks.
It'll probably cause a bunch of divorces or something.
It could in my household, I promise you.
I know my girlfriend's ready for dirt season to come back. I like that move. I do like the move a little bit more because it gives you an opportunity when you're sick of your family on Thursday. You could book your trip to go down to St. Louis and get away from them the next week and take some time away.
Yeah, it is, and like I said, we'll make the most of it. We have to change it, but it is what it is, and we'll make the most of the situation.
Ben Shelton joining us. He's going to be on the call for the VP Racing Fuels Gateway Dirt Nationals at the Dirt at the Americas Center in St. Louis, November 29th, 30th, and the December 1st. Race got moved up just a little bit. You can add sprint midgets, open wheel modifieds, and super late models will be on that bill also. Anything we're missing there, Ben?
No, I think it's just another one of those deals. I had somebody call me from a radio show earlier. I think that's the thing that has caught my eye, because the first year you guys had me on, and then last year there were 3 or 4. Well, today alone I've done 2 radio interviews for different parts of the country, and I think that's the big thing. It's got traction. People are taking note of it, and it's like I said on the radio show earlier. They said, "What's the biggest thing?" And I said, I'm going to be honest, hopefully in 20 years, you guys are calling me to be on the show to talk about the 23rd annual event. We want to have it, as long as we can. The reality is that dome, obviously with the St. Louis Rams gone, which is the only reason we can have this, at any point, that's high value land downtown. And if they decide the city of St. Louis would get more value out of putting something else here, they may steamroll the dome, they may flatten it, put up something else there. So we're literally year to year on this. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, if I don't go this year, I'll go next year, we hope like hell you're going to join us next year. But there's a chance there'll be no event because there'll be nowhere to hold it.
Yeah, quit waiting. You said this last year. You told us this last year. Quit putting it off till next year, because there very well may be not a next year.
Well, I talked to some of the security when I was roaming around there, and that's exactly what they said. They said the dome doesn't get used a whole lot, so if the city finds a bigger revenue source for that land, that dome will just disappear in a heartbeat.
And that's why we're glad to see, jokes aside, the Beyonce concerts and other things. The more events they have there, AMA goes there every year with the motocross. They do a monster gym. We need those things to keep happening. And like I said, I'm not trying to get people to go, this is propaganda he's spreading to get us there. I really hope, and for the next 20 years, we're talking about this, but we don't know. They keep telling us. They're offering us multi-year deals to sign, but it's kind of with the catch of, as long as the dome is still here, we'll honor this. So hopefully it's not an issue, but the way that money works and capitalism, at any point, it may offer value somewhere else and it goes away. So if you're on the fence, you're thinking about going, come and join us this year. And we hope that you join us this year for the next 20, but you don't want to be bummed when you hear next, April, they're knocking down the dome. We have no way to know.
It's an excellent show. I've been to a gazillion dirt track races all over the Midwest. And
that's a real number, by the way.
Yeah, but it was a good race. A good 2 nights of racing. I got to see the 4 features on Friday, and then I was there for the whole day Saturday.
One thing that we do, and final thing, I will say, and you guys saw last year, is we make it into a party as much as anything. And I've been playing the music for months, and there's some new pyro being thrown in, and we kind of want to make it like a dirt track race meets a rock concert meets a festival. And that's what we're doing. And when you go there, we have the Jumbotrons, we have the dance cams and the kiss cams, and we got so much we can do. We've got wireless cameras going to the grandstand. So we can kind of truly make it unlike any other experience you've ever had, because we're inside and we got all this cool stuff to play with, and we're going to try to do everything we can short of blowing the roof up. So that's another thing. Even if you've got a spouse that's lukewarm on racing, if you come to this, we're gonna entertain you one way or another. Somehow you're gonna leave there entertained.
And there is alcohol involved.
Oh.
And always.
GatewayDirt.com for more information. November 29th, 30th, and December 1st. Ben, good luck on the call. I know you're going to have an easy job because these guys are going to put on a hell of a show.
It's one of those where it's a blessing and a curse, because it's very stressful, because we want to show everybody a good time. It's an honor to get to do it. So I both look forward to it, and I almost dread it from my standpoint, because I wish I could just go sit in the stands, drink beer, and watch awesome racing. But we're so thankful to have everybody that supports us. This is another thing I keep final thinging you. This shows how it's grown. They've told us since way back in the Rams days, this is the first time every suite has been sold out for an event.
Wow.
And we have sold out every suite. That happened in 4 days after they became available about a month ago.
Holy cow. Great job.
Yes.
Again, get more information, GatewayDirt.com. Thanks a lot, Ben. Do appreciate you joining us, sir.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
I got to laughing so hard there. I don't know if it came across in the audio. Because and then we throw in the midgets.
They'll come out of the clown car as they drive it around the track.
I'm sorry if that's inappropriate. I'm a small person myself. I'm a little sensitive to the height thing. But when he said, and then we throw in the midgets, I just couldn't help it. Somebody, like Scott Bloomquist out there picking up some guy and throwing him out onto the track. All right, I'm gonna try to collect myself. We're gonna take a break. We'll be back at turn number 3. Anthony Roth, driver of the 60 the 4th, will join us on the front stretch.
You're a nice shade of red right now, by the way.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Hey, Sprint Car fans, this is Shaylee Bade, the driver of the 03 U.S. Army Helget Construction Sprint Car. You're listening to the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Rolling into turn number 3, and it's time to sit down with a local dirt track driver, 2-time champion at I-80 Speedway, won championship in the modifieds and also picked them up in the sport modifieds. Races for Roth Racing and in the Anthony Roth Racing. That's driver of the 64th, Anthony Roth. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
Glad you could join us. It's been a long time coming. I don't think we've ever had you on the show before.
You know, I haven't been on the show like this. I've gotten interviewed one time at I-80, and that was about it.
Yeah, that's right. I talked to you after your engine got claimed.
Yeah, yep.
That's right.
After that incident all took place, we had a little conversation about that.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit more because I know there was plenty of scuttlebutt going around, and then I want to talk to you about that. But before, let's talk about the good stuff. You had one hell of a year out of I-80 Speedway. Between your modifieds, you picked up 7 wins, 3 in the A-mods and 4 in the sport mods.
Yeah, that's correct. You know, we had one heck of a year there at I-80. The sport mods, we finished in the top 4 all except one night. In the A mods, we were in the top 5 every night except one night as well. So it turned out really well.
Did you race anywhere else weekly besides I-80?
Yeah, I raced Thursday nights at Columbus. We picked up the track championship there. Saturday nights I ran at McCool, and we led the points all up until the last night when there was a controversial call on some stuff. And then I also raced at Dawson County Raceway out in Lexington, Nebraska. I won the points there.
Dang, 4 nights of racing?
5 nights, technically, yeah, if you count the B mod as being a night also.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah, we were busy.
Why aren't you
potentially
racing 7?
had 5 track championships coming.
Yeah,
but we ended up getting 4.
Dirk's got a good point. Why take 2 nights off? What are you slacking for?
Right, I know. Well, it's tough when I lost my crew guy when we got back earlier this year from Arizona, and just been doing it by myself with my dad helping me once in a while, my brother and girlfriend.
And racing that much, I mean, you had to have learned so much from what you did last year and the year before, just sheer repetition.
Oh, you do. You know, the more seat time you get, the better off you are, and just racing at a big tracks like I-80 and McCool and Lexington, and then going to Columbus and I hit Beatrice once in a while, you know, just all variety of different tracks. You know, with all that seat time, you get so many notes built up in your notebook, and you know what the car needs at special places. Won
the track championship last year at Eagle. What was the decision to move down the road and not go race the Bull Ring this year?
You know, just kind of how our schedule panned out, and we were trying different things. We wanted to just try something different, you know, and Eagle's a little bit rougher on cars, not the driving-wise, just the track condition, you know. There's a few more holes than a lot of other places up there all the time, so that's harder on our equipment.
Yeah. Are you still living up in the Norfolk area then?
Yeah, we're up in the Columbus, Nebraska, just south of Norfolk there.
Picking up the track championship at I-80 and looking back at some of those guys, I mean, you beat some of the who's who of A-modified racing in the area between Justin Gregg, Shane Hyatt, Travis Hatcher, who was the defending track champion, Jesse Dennis, and just some amazing talent out there. Does that make you stick your chest out just a little bit more? You were able to whoop them?
You know, everyone says that stuff, and it's like, yeah, you know, it's neat to beat all them guys, you know, because they've run there for a long time, and they've dominated that track, and I would show up for specials, and they'd kick my butt, and then this finally I can say, I pulled out some wins and I was on top.
Yeah, well, I don't think you really care who you beat, do you?
No, I show up to any racetrack and it doesn't bother me who's there. I know what my car has and I know the potential that my car can give me, and so it just comes down to me driving it.
I think you and I talked about this, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty just a little bit here about your car, your setup, and your driving style. I'll admit it, there was times I sat up in that booth and I watched you and I thought, he has got to be cheating that car up because there's no way he's that fast. But every time you went through tech, every time they tore your car down, every time they looked at it even closer, you passed just fine.
Yeah, every time I got into the tech, I had no problem. I had no problem them taking my motor numbers. I had no problem testing my fuel. Just tech anything, pull the hoods, whatever you wanted, I was going to pull off for you. I didn't make myself nervous. I was never nervous in tech. Just another night in tech,
Does it make it that much more gratifying when the guys are saying he's got to be cheating to beat me and then you pass tech?
Oh, for sure. That's the best feeling. When that's all they talk about all weekend, they basically amp themselves up because they think I'm cheating, and then I'm not cheating. They still can't find anything wrong. There's nothing going to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So how many times has somebody come up and said, I know you're cheating because you beat me and I'm cheating?
That's actually not happened, but I've heard people tell me I'm cheating all the time, and it's just something you get used to hearing all the time. And as I talked to my grandpa and my dad, because they both were successful race car drivers, they said they put up with the same things.
Yeah, I've heard a lot, that Roth, he can't be that fast because he's got to be cheating. And they come out with different things. I've heard, you drove by after hot laps and they could smell the additive in the fuel, or the engine sounded different. He's obviously off the rev limiter or something like that.
Yeah, in the B mods, it was always funny. I had these Cook headers that my brother ran years ago in his sport mod, and we had them laying around. And since I was racing sport mod, I threw them on. They're more expensive from the get-go, but since they're laying here, I put them on.
Mm-hmm.
And they're longer tubes, so it makes it sound louder. And the fuel is just a mixture of 3.5 right out of the pump. You go to a gas station getting 1.5 race fuel. Nothing fancy.
Have you had any issues in tech this year?
There was one little incident at McCool Junction. There was something going on with the spring cups. One of mine was off 3/16 of an inch, but that was on my other car, and that car's been crashed once already, so I don't really think it was something that got made like that. I think it was just bent like that. But we took it home and fixed it anyways, and went out the next night and won a $1,000 race out in Dawson County Raceway.
So was spring cup in the rear or in the front?
Oh, the front. Yep, up front.
Has business picked up for you? I know, don't you build chassis for a living?
Yeah, we build Razor chassis. I actually got a couple of my cars from I-80. My cars I raced at I-80, both of them are for sale.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we also build new ones, and after we've been doing good this year, we've been selling them left and right.
Any plans on putting fenders on something and going racing with the real big boys?
I've always wanted to do that, and if anyone ever gave me the opportunity, I'd take it. But not as next year, no. But it'd be nice to.
So not as a car owner, but as a driver, you got the interest as a car owner, you're going to stick where you're at.
Yeah, for now I am. You never know what the future might hold around here at Razor Chassis.
Do you have your plans for 2019 kind of a little bit fluid, idea what you want to do?
We really don't. I know I'm not going to do the sport mod stuff anymore. That was a one-time thing this year. My car's up for sale, like I said earlier, turnkey. If somebody wants it, come get it. It still has... the tires are still wrapped from championship night at I-80 when it got rained out. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to Columbus, I know, and I'm not for sure on the rest of the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Still going to try to race as many races?
I'm going to try. We got 74 nights in this year and 29 wins, and we've only had 4 DNFs, and 6 to 10s. We only had 6 of those. Everything else was in the top 5.
Do you think that your racing in the sport modified affected your modified racing in a good or a bad way?
Actually, in a really good way, because we usually race the sport mod before the A mod, and so whatever line I was running in the sport mod, which was usually up against the wall, it gave me that much more confidence to go out in my A mod right away and just go straight to the wall.
Yeah,
and just ride up there.
As the year went on, and I, again, like I said about it, I looked at it and said, how can he be that fast? Eventually, you started realizing that, man, you would basically run that Kyle Larson line, and the only difference between you and Kyle Larson is he would usually hit the wall. you stayed just perfect off of it, and man, the run you would get off the corners is just insane.
A little bit different doing it for 20 or 25 laps
yeah.
as opposed to 400, though.
Yeah. Yep, you guys are right there. Yeah, they have a little bit more cushion up there with their quarter panels, too, if they want to rub that wall. We really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Our cars suck right in.
Do you like those bigger tracks, or do you prefer the smaller tracks?
Until this year, I used to run all small tracks, but now this year it's like reverse. So I liked all the big tracks, and I still like going to the small tracks. Small tracks are better on forgiveness than bigger tracks. You got to carry a lot more speed, momentum, and you can't make as many mistakes or bobble as much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you're going faster, when you hit that wall, it does break more stuff.
You got that right. I had that happen at the Go 50.
Yeah.
Several times, if I remember right.
Yeah, we came from the back to the front a few times, and then we finally ended our night in the wall, which was an unfortunate event.
Yeah. I always did enjoy watching, and I'm sorry if it sounds bad, but I liked watching when you would have issues, because then you would start in the back and I got to watch you make your way to the front. And it was very Kyle Busch-esque of, you could almost see that helmet with another couple of degrees looking down because you were mad that you screwed up.
Oh, yeah, you're not the only person to tell me that, so don't be sorry for that one. That's after that Go 50 event took place, I had a lot of people. I had no idea who they were, but they knew who I was, and they come up and said, "You put on one hell of a show," and I said, "Well, thank you. I just wish I could have finished it off the right way."
Well, you got a birthday coming up in just a couple of days. What are you going to do?
Oh, my girlfriend says she's coming up. She's going to take me out on that Tuesday, and then we have Thanksgiving the next couple of days after that, so we're going to enjoy that. And then we have the National Banquet in Lincoln that we're going to celebrate at also.
Okay. No partying, no...
No, I mean, if you guys want to throw me a party, I'll come to it.
You know what? We're having a party today at Quaker Steak and Lube. You're welcome to swing down, have some wings and beer.
Watch the Homestead race. Get in our pools. We got a lot of cash pools going on. We do trivia and give away great prizes. We even got a Goodyear Eagle from Kansas Speedway that we're going to be giving away to some lucky winner.
Yeah, I might just have to swing on by. I might be down there in the Omaha area at that time.
Well, if you are, you know where to find us, and I'm sure you could squeeze a beer or two out of me.
Oh, yeah, that'd be all right.
Yeah, his lube stube is well replenished and keeps full the whole afternoon.
That's amazing. Anthony Roth Racing fan page on Facebook is a great way to keep up to date with everything that's going on with the 60 the 4th. Am I getting that right, 60 the 4th?
Yeah, the fourth generation. Yep, you got that right.
That took me way too long to figure that out.
Yeah, a lot of people said 601V or 60IV. It's like, oh, man.
Yeah, we just talk. We don't really know what we're talking about.
60 IVs. He's got some health problems. Is what I'm gonna say.
Yep. I've heard it all, but no, it's 60 the 4th generation.
Well, congratulations on the big wins this year and on the track championships. Hopefully, big things are in your future. We can get you up into maybe a late model or maybe even a sprint car. Would you ever go race a midget?
We've talked about that around here at the shop. My little brother always wants to do that, but I wouldn't be opposed to trying it once or twice just to see and say that I'd done it.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're throwing midgets at the Gateway Dirt National.
Dan gets excied about midget racing. That he thinks there should be a midget toss or something. It's politically so incorrect.
This is you should have listened to the turn before this. There was a whole thing about throwing midgets.
Listen to the show on Sunday. You'll get it. Dan's turning red again.
Here we go. All right, man. Well, thanks a lot for joining us. Have a great off season.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Happy birthday to you, and make sure to thank them sponsors to get you up and down the road.
I would love to thank my sponsors. I got to start off by thanking Razor Chassis, Shell Valley Classic Wheels, Roth Racing Performance, Speedway Crate Engines, Outpace Racing Products, Fast Shafts, KSE Power Steering, JM Shocks, and Ryan from there, AFCO Racing Products, Schoenfeld Headers, BSB, Superior Fuel Cells, Steve's Yard Care, Suba Construction, and Total Eclipse Salon.
All right, good job on that. That's all by memory, right?
That is right. I had to do it 29 times this year, so I had to remember a lot.
Yep. Anthony Roth of the 60 the 4th. Good job this year, and we'll see you at the I-80 banquet.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
See ya.
We'll be back on the front stretch. This week's Young Gun on the front stretch is 13-year-old Destin Whitney. Destin's been racing for 8 years behind the wheel of a cage cart, junior dragster, and a Dirt E modified. Most of Destin's career behind the wheel has been competing against adults, which he actually likes it that way. He knows that when he ends up in victory lane, he's beat somebody with plenty of experience, which makes it that much more enjoyable. Destin spent 2018 behind the wheel of an 09 Victory Chassis E modified racing at US 36 Raceway, I-35 Speedway, Bethany Speedway, Lakeside Speedway, and a few non-sanctioned races at I-80 Speedway. Destin plans to move into the Sport Mod class in 2019. Someday he hopes to race a super late model with the Lucas Oil Late Model Series, and he wants to win the biggest race of them all, the Dream at Eldora. Until then, he's focused on making a name against the best the Midwest has to offer. Keep your eye out for the number 58 Kelly's Auto Repair, AMSOIL, Jono Racing Engines, Elite Welding and Fabrication, Sport Modified, driven by this week's young gun, Destin Whitney.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around the professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Hi, this is Mike Elton, president of NASCAR, and you're listening to the front stretch.
Welcome back to it. Just about ready to wrap this baby up. Rolling into turn number 4, brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Get over to Quaker Steak and Lube today for the Homestead viewing party. Dirk, I have a huge page of prizes that are available for people to give out. I didn't want to waste too much paper, so I only printed one, but I can send it over to you. Things like Donnie Scott's autographed hero cards, Brad Sweet autographed hero cards, signed by Casey Kane and Brad Sweet.
From this year's Knoxville National. That's not an old card. That's old.
We have a ton of Bobby Pierce autographed hero cards, Gateway Dirt National Program signed by Scott Bloomquist and Shannon Babb, Rodney Sanders hero cards. We have a Goodyear tire, full tire from Kansas Speedway. Thanks to your sticky hands and quick legs. Well, I tell you, brother, for 60, how old?
Not 60 yet.
Okay. He can hustle when he's got 2 tires underneath of his arms and he's got Goodyear guys chasing him down the pit lane.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't have eyes in the back of my head, so
by the way,
they obviously were real slow. They might have been in walkers or something.
Kevin Harvick's crew was looking for a new tire changer this weekend and called Dirk, but he said, no, I'm retired. I'm fine.
Yep, I'm retired.
Kevin Harvick hero cards, Justin Allgaier autographed hero cards, Joey Logano autographed hero cards. Now, most of these big guys are going to be claimed by the top 16 in the Pick'ems contest, but if you come to Quaker Steak and Lube today, you've got an opportunity to win these because of all the trivia questions that, like I've been saying for weeks, you've got a copy so you can proofread them.
Well, the tire deal I think is pretty cool because that's something everybody can't get their hands on.
Right.
You know, I had to do some name dropping to get that. But to me, my favorite out of that whole batch is that front stretch hats that's autographed by Thomas Weeks.
Yeah, that's a really cool
from
one.
Misfit Garage. You know,
we've also got Hoosier autographed hats from Ryan Jenkins, Stuart Snyder, and Tyler Drukin. We went down to Precise Racing Products. They did their open house in January. A lot of great autographed items. I mean, it's a whole page of small print of items that you could win today if they're available because if you're not a part of the season-long contest. But a lot of stuff going on at Quaker Steak and Lube. Get over to the Homestead viewing party. You can find it on our Facebook page, and we'll get you all the information. All right, let's talk about Homestead today. We've got 4 drivers that can compete for the championship. Here's the important thing for fans to understand. Stage points, bonus playoff points, they do not apply to the top 4 championship contenders. Mark Truex Jr. doesn't matter if he wins stage 1 and stage 2. He doesn't get any extra stage points. He will only get the maximum allotted points of where he finishes in the race. Same thing with Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Joey Logano.
So you will see for anybody that's going after, the season-long title, I'm not sure where we're at. I didn't look at the standings on that, so I don't know how close things are.
It's about a 20-point gap between first and second.
You might want to not probably maybe take one of these top 4 guys if you're looking for the stage points.
Yeah,
because there's going to be guys, like Chase Elliott trying to run for 5th place now and stuff like that, that where these stage points are going to come in. You're going to see a lot of these guys pitting early, especially after the second stage. When that's coming up, you're going to see a lot of guys pitting right before they close pit road, getting those fresh tires and starting on a set of tires with 2 laps on it.
Yeah.
And then a couple caution laps before the 3rd stage so they can be up front when that starts and start fresh because it's all about the win, And since they've gone this knockouts type running where they've cut down to 4 drivers at the end, the winner of the race is taking the title home.
Absolutely. I think whoever wins the race today will be one of the championship 4, and thus they'll take home the championship.
But you're going to see 2 guys You're going to see two guys hustling for wins.
Chad's disagreeing over there.
Nope. Everybody's forgetting about one driver that has
don't
totally dominated Homestead.
Don't even bring Kyle Larson into this.
145 laps led in 2016, 138 laps led last year.
How many times has he won at Homestead?
He's finished second and third.
How many times has he won at
He's finished second and third.
But you've also got two guys trying to keep their season streaks alive.
Yeah.
With the 48 and the 11.
Yeah.
And the 42.
The first thing
I
want
to season streak. He hadn't won this year.
He hasn't won this year.
Yeah.
So.
But his streak's not in double digits like the other guys are.
And they're not bad. I mean, I think Jimmy Johnson is third on the all-time list for consecutive seasons with a win, and he is just 2 seasons away from being the sole owner of that
he's like
record.
at 16, and I think 18's the thing. And what's Hamlin? 1 year behind him or something? 15 years or 14 years?
And so one of the streaks is going to get broken tonight.
At least one of them. And the way this season's gone, they're both going to go down. Let's face it. But you're going to get the top effort. This is going to be Chad and Jimmy's last race.
So let's get back to Homestead today. I want to talk about your guys' top 4. Again, we talked about it. Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Joey Logano are the 4 in. Give me your 4th place finisher for today's race, Dirk.
I'm going to say 4th place is probably going to be Joey Logano.
Okay.
I don't think he's got the team to win the title.
Chad?
I think it's going to be Truex. The question is, how far can emotion take this team? I don't think it could take them all the way to a title.
So you think Martin Truex Jr. is your 4th place?
Yes.
Is your 4th place driver. That's interesting. I think I've got Joey Logano on my 4th place simply because... And the only thing that gives me haste to say that is that Joey has come on very, very strong in the playoffs. He had kind of a mediocre season. He got in on sheer talent, and I think that team has elevated their game. But when it comes down to picking, I feel like Harvick, Busch, and Truex are in front of him. He is a tremendously great driver, but I think they're in front of him. Dirk, give me your number 3.
My number 3, I think, is Kyle Busch. The year he won the title, he was the man. I mean, he only had to race half the season, or a little more than half the season, but he won a ton of races in half a season. I think he was the dominant car that year. And I just don't see him coming to the front at this track.
Chad?
I got Kyle Busch finishing 3rd. I think I got the Toyotas finishing 3rd and 4th. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to be a battle between the Fords. They've shown the most power in the playoffs. And when I was researching this race today, I noticed Kyle Busch has led 1 lap on the 1.5 mile tracks in the playoffs.
Wow.
That is incredible. At Las Vegas, Kansas, and Texas, he's led 1 lap, and that was when he stayed out.
Wow, that's insane. All right, we're going to go unanimous on this. I think Kyle Busch is the 3rd best driver out there. It's weird to say the driver that has the most legitimate wins this year is the driver that's going to finish 3rd in our standings. Dirk, who do you have for your 2nd place runner-up this year?
I've got the 4 car. Just plain and simple. I think the 78 repeats, so that leaves me the 4 car to run 3rd.
Okay, Chad, who's your second?
I got the 4 car. I think he's going to show up. He's going to have the most speed. He's going to lead the most laps. But something's going to go wrong at the end of the race, and it's going to come down and bite him. And it's happened so many times this year.
Yeah,
it's going to be a pit crew mistake, I'll bet.
It probably will be. I mean, they've been shuffling pit crews.
We'll get you a big plate of crow.
Yeah,
don't worry. But it's and I no shocker here. Kevin Harvick's just that guy that when he sees the prize, good luck wrestling it away from him. He is just so vicious when it comes to getting that away. I was really surprised that Truex was able to win it last year. I think Truex and that 78 team are off their game by just a hair, to the point where they haven't won as many races this year. They haven't won as many stages. They don't have as many points. They're still a strong contender, but I think they're a 2nd place contender. I've got Truex in my 2nd place and Harvick hoisting the trophy at the end of the year.
Yeah, like I said, I just think that Truex, like Chad mentioned earlier, is going to be racing on sheer emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I think
that could be a bad thing.
I think last year he kind of, he wanted obviously to win a championship because you want to, but he raced a lot last year for his girlfriend, which there's nothing wrong with that, because she'd overcome cancer and everything.
Yeah.
Can they do it a second year in a row? And the way this season has gone, I mean, all these guys at one time or another this year have had pit road challenges. And I think more than somebody winning this race, somebody's going to lose this race with a pit road error.
And that's why I have Joey Logano winning the championship today. And it's going to come down to the Nebraska Cornhuskers winning it for him. Old Graham Stoddard over there changing tires for Joey Logano. In the last race at Texas, the number 22 team posted the 2 fastest pit stops of the year. And what they did is they took pit players from the 2-team to 12-team, made an all-star team. They've been practicing for about 4 weeks now together, and they are lightning fast. This thing's going to come down to a pit stop at the end of the race.
Yeah.
Joey Logano's going to get out first. And, a couple years ago, we lost it when the Jackman dropped a car at the end of the race.
Right.
It's going to be the exact opposite today.
The Jack won't go down, and Joey will be sitting up there in the air when everybody's on the track.
I think that was the year Kyle Busch won his championship, was because Joey Logano had that issue on pit road and just wasn't able to recover. And it happened late enough in the race that there was no recovery.
Yeah, I really like Joey.
Looking at this race last year, your playoff contenders for this year, only Joey Logano was not involved in it last year. Martin Truex Jr. ended up winning the race, finished 5th in Stage 1, 2nd in Stage 2, and won the race. Kyle Busch came home 2nd, Larson 3rd. Harvick, your other playoff contender, finished 4th. Chase Elliott was a top 5. Joey Logano, your current playoff contender for today, was 6th. So as that stands, all of your championship drivers for today's race finished in the top 6 last year.
Huh. And they got Logano in 4th last year, and I think that's who I picked. They got Harvick and Kyle in my winner, so okay, I could stick with that.
And to your point, Chad, Kyle Larson led 4 times, 145 laps. It was really him, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. that led laps. Only Brad Keselowski was the only other lap leader for 1 lap. So
I think you're going to see the same thing today.
I agree.
Think it's going to be the final 4 and Kyle Larson. I mean, Kyle Larson's going to be the rabbit. They're going to be out there chasing him. At the end of the race, he'll kind of switch around, and the 4 will get to the front.
Chad, I haven't seen anything, and I know you see a lot of this stuff. Has Goodyear mentioned if they're bringing the tire from last year, or are they bringing something new?
I haven't seen nothing yet.
Because I think that'll play huge into this.
Yeah, that's another reason why I picked the Logano. They did 3 tests in the playoffs, 1 at Texas, 1 at Kansas, 1 at Richmond, and Team Penske picked Joey Logano for each test session.
Cup and Xfinity cars to switch to Fontana Chicagoland left side tires at Homestead. Sounds like they're running the same right side tires, but a different left side combination. So I think that answers our question. Today, race at Homestead Miami Speedway. The Ford EcoBoost 400 will be on NBC and NBCSN, starting at 12:30 with the green flag waving at 1:30. If you haven't found it out yet, go over to NBCSN in between the races, or when you get some time. They're going to be staying commercial free, and they're going to have Ken Squires and somebody else calling the race over there, and they're going to have exclusive in-car footage locked in with Kevin Harvick, locked in with the 4 championship drivers. Really cool thing they're doing over there. Maybe bounce back and forth if you can. If you don't have NBCSN or NBC, head over to Quaker Steak and Lube, the Homestead viewing party going on today at noon 30. We'll see you down there, Chad. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
As always, Daytona's just around the corner. We'll do it all again next weekend as we return for another great show of the Front Stretch on AM 590.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you white knuckle racing by the river bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.